So you've heard about Forbidden Lands, and you're interested in trying your hand at the game. The first thing you're going to need is a character. Now, you may have access to pre-generated characters. Some come with the books as well. Your game master may provide you with some. But let's talk about character creation. Character creation in Forbidden Lands is just 12 easy steps. I know, 12 seems like a lot, but let me run through these real quick, and it'll be a lot easier to stomach. First, you're going to choose your kin. In other games, this might be a race, a species, a lineage, an ancestry. You're going to choose whether you're a dwarf, an elf, a human. Then you're going to choose your profession. Might be class or OCC in another role-playing game. Here it's profession. This is where you determine if you're a fighter, ranger, rogue, anything along those lines. One step they did add was age, and we'll talk about that more when we get there, but age is, are you young, middle-aged, old, and that's going to impact both your stats and your skills. Each of these choices is going to impact the points you have to spend to build your character. Step number 4 is spending points on your attributes, and step number 5 is spending points on your skills. Next, you will choose your starting talents. Talents are going to be special abilities, spells, and the like. I like the way that Forbidden Lands has handled these, and we'll talk more about those when we get there. Next, you will determine your character's pride. Your pride is akin to the one thing from 13th Age. It's kind of like an aspect from Fate. It's kind of neat. You will also have a dark secret, something about your character that nobody else knows that you will be able to invoke for benefit during gameplay. It also facilitates narrative storytelling. Then you're going to define your relationships with other characters in the game. This is a great step that's been added in many NSR games over the past couple of years. Finally, you get to gear, appearance, and a name. Believe it or not, that's 12 steps, folks. As we discussed previously, your kin is the first step. And again, in other games, this might be considered a race or ancestry or lineage. The kin available to you in Forbidden Lands are human, elf, half-elf, dwarf, halfling, wolfkin, orc, and goblin. In the Forbidden Lands, orcs are evil. By default, it ties into their lore, and it is recommended that you discuss playing one with the rest of your group beforehand. We're going to talk more about the options that they've made with kin in another video, but for now, that is what's available in the Forbidden Lands base book. Each kin comes with a key attribute, a kin talent, typical professions, and typical male and female names, which also tie back into the lore of the setting. The second step in character creation is choosing that profession for your character. In the Forbidden Lands base book, there are a number of professions available for you to choose for your character. Some of these are going to seem quite familiar, some maybe not. They're going to be druid, fighter, hunter, minstrel, peddler, rider, rogue, and sorcerer. Each profession comes with a key attribute, skills, typical nicknames for that profession, what they might typically be called, as well as suggested pride, dark secret, relationships, and gear. We talked about the fact that they want you to consider the starting age for your adventurer, be it young, adult, or old. And they have some age ranges that would fall into this based on the kin that you have chosen. So for example, a human young is 16 to 25, adult is 26 to 50, and old is over 50. Meanwhile, a dwarf young is 20 to 40, middle aged is somewhere between 40 and 80, and anything over 80 is considered old. How this impacts your character at creation spreads across the things you're going to be spending points on. It tells you how many points you have to spend on different things. So I'm going to put these up on the screen here, but you'll see if you wanted to play a young character, you would get 15 attribute points 8 skill points, and 1 general talent. Meanwhile, if you wanted to play an old character, you would get 13 attribute points, 12 skill points, and 3 general talents. Now, I have some thoughts on this, and I know Reforged Power delves into this a little bit. I understand the balance that the Forbidden Lands and Free League are trying to do here. I've got some ideas, and we'll talk about that later. Once you've determined your kin, your profession, and your age, it's time to go ahead and spend points on attributes. And as a rule of thumb, you can spend no less than 2 and no more than 4 points in a single attribute. The exception to this is the key attributes. So if you have a key attribute for strength from your kin, you can spend up to 5 points on that attribute. If you have a key attribute of strength for your profession, you could spend up to 5 on that attribute. If your kin and your profession share the same key attribute, you can spend up to 6 points on that attribute in character creation. Next, you're going to be looking at skills. There are 16 skills for you to spend points on. And the way this works is that your profession came with a number of skills. You can spend up to 3 points on any of those skills. Anything not related to your profession, you can spend 1 point on. And talents are talents. They are unique. They do have ranks. Kin talents only have 1 rank. Profession and general talents have up to 3 ranks. By default, you're going to get that 1 rank in your kin talent. You will get 1 rank in a profession talent. There's multiple profession talents per a profession. That's how you specialize in the Forbidden Lands. General talents, there's a smattering of them. Now, by default, you're going to have at least 1 point to spend on general talents. You can opt to spend that general talent point on your profession talent so that you get 2 ranks in a professional talent. As written, if you have multiple general talents because you went with middle age or old age for your character, you can only spend 1 of those general talents on a professional talent to boost it up. The Pride and Dark Secret are something you're going to choose or create, and the relationships are something a little bit more narrative. When it comes to gear, you have been given gear by the profession you have selected. You also get a number of silver based on a die roll, which comes from the profession to buy additional gear if you so choose. This uses a format and coinage that we're familiar with from other tabletop role-playing games, and that is copper, 10 of those equal 1 silver, 10 silver equal 1 gold. We are going to talk more in depth about gear in another video. I do like how they have done this for inventory. Encumbrance uses something akin that we've seen in more modern games where instead of giving exact weights, they're, light or heavy items, as well as how they do consumables like arrows, for example. Your character's appearance and name, you have suggestions from the Forbidden Lands, and you're going to have some from the group in understanding the setting as well, but this is going to be something that you go ahead and just choose. That's the basis to making a character, and we'll go ahead and actually create one using these rules as is without any modifications. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a Forbidden Lands character. You're going to see me going back and forth between screens as I go ahead and build this out using the rulebook, so it is done as written here, no modifications. And the first thing I'm going to need to do is create or choose a kin. You know what? Let's just go with dwarf. Let's make a nice, simple dwarf character. One thing I'm going to have to note is that his key attribute is strength. So for right now, I'm just going to mark that. His kin talent is going to be true grit. Typical profession is going to be fighter, minstrel, or peddler. And typical names: Badlow, Ganderman, Hargamar, Tiergar, Wolfred, I'm gonna steal an old-fashioned one here. Hrothgar. Okay, so we've got that in there, and then we're gonna go ahead and choose a profession. Again, like I said, want to keep this nice and simple. So, let's go with Hunter. That's also going to make a key attribute Strength. And then skills are going to be, I don't really have a way to mark it here, do we? Maybe. Let's see. Nope. All right, so what I'll do is I'll put a marker here. The fighter profession skills are going to be Might, Endurance, Melee. Shocker, I know. Crafting and Move. Yes, crafting is a strength skill in this game. But to each their own, I suppose. Got some thoughts on that. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. I love the typical nicknames for this profession. I'm going to read those off. Gravemaker, Grimjaw, Iron Boot. All right. So we have that. This is supposed to come later, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill this part out now. It does have some recommended Pride and Dark Secrets. Never back away from a fight. Okay, and then Dark Secret seems very dwarvish. You sometimes take to the battle to chase away the memories of all those you have killed. All right. So now we have that. We also have gear here. So let's just go ahead and scroll down there and start getting that in. We can fill in the rest later. A one-handed weapon of choice. Studded leather. 1 trade good. D6 silver. That's your coin that I had mentioned before. Food is a D8 and water is a D6. I didn't really cover this before, but I will later. It's kind of neat how they do this. So D8 food and D6 water. Then we've got to go look at those age items. You know what? Let's go with an adult. The middle age. For dwarves, I'm looking here, it's going to be somewhere between the ages of 41 and 80. Let's just make him on the low end. Let's give him 45 for an age. That is going to end up providing him, let's see, for attributes, 14 points in attributes. Well, I can only go up to 4 unless I've got a key attribute. I can go up to 5. If I've got a double key attribute, I could go up to 6. I don't know. We'll do 5 there. 3 here. That's what, 8? That leaves me another 6. I could do 3 and 3. What if I do 3 and... let's just go with 3. Why not? And then for skills, now remember with skills, we can spend up to 3 on anything that's in our profession. Anything outside our profession skills, we can only spend 1 on. And as middle-aged adult, I have 10 skill points. We definitely want him to be good with weapons. So there's 3. Endurance, that seems important. And might probably as well. That's going to be 7 of our 10. He doesn't have as much agility, so we'll give him another 2 there. That's going to give him 6, 9, so he's got 1. He's probably been on the road a bit. Let's give him some survival skill, too. Now we get to look at talents. Now, as an adult, he's going to get 2 talent points, general talents. He's also going to get 1 profession talent, and we can move one of those general talents over to the professional talent if we so choose. So the fighter's talents are Path of the Blade, Path of the Enemy, and Path of the Shield. Path of the Blade. For rank 1, when you hit with a close combat attack, you can spend a willpower point to find a weakness in your opponent's armor or natural armor. The armor has no effect against this attack. Rank 2 is when you've used up all your attacks, you can spend a willpower to immediately attack 1 more time in close combat. And rank 3, when you hit with a close combat attack, you can increase the damage every willpower point spent Increases damage by 1. You must state how many willpower you use before your opponent rolls for armor. That's a pretty good one. Path of the enemy. Like I say, you see through your opponent, anticipate their next move before it happens. Observe that this talent is only applicable if you use the system for hidden combination and close combat. Yeah, they actually have 2 different combat systems within this game. Basic and a little more complex. I probably will be using the hidden combinations option. And Path of the Shield. This is your defender, right? So you get a bonus with shields, with defending others, and with parrying. Let's just keep it simple. Let's go with Path of the Blade. And, you know what? For right now, I'm just going to give them the one that they get altogether, or the one that they automatically get. We're going to give this character that Path of the Blade rank 1. And let's look at the general talents, right? Ambidextrous, Axe Fighter. I kind of want to give him the axe, so I've already kind of been eyeballing that one. Basically gives him a bonus to fight with axes, which he's a fighter, makes sense. Berserkers have a primal rage. Brawler is fighting barehanded. Cold-blooded comes in really handy. I talked about this in another video, how to be able to kill a defenseless sentient opponent, you have to make an empathy roll, or you're going to end up taking damage, even just for trying, whether you do or not. It's going to impact you, but with cold-blooded, you don't make that roll. There's a lot of really good options for the general feats here. Lightning Fast, Incorruptible, a Hammer Fighter. A lot of people might want that for a dwarf. I'm still seeing Axe in my head, though, so I think that's going to be one. Pain Resistant, I think that's what we're going to do. Axe Fighter and Pain Resistant. Oh. Now we've got the talents all set. Let's figure out which weapon we're going to take for that one-handed weapon. I bet it's going to be an axe. We also get that one trade good. And what do we have? Arrows, quivers, grappling hook, candles, oil lamp, backpack, bandages, flint and steel. A lot of options here. You only get one automatically. We're going to go with the backpack. It's got to have some place to put all this stuff, right? And that weapon, let's go battle axe. And what I'll end up doing is rolling the d6 to figure out how many silver he ends up with, which is going to go ahead and allow me to buy some extra gear, because I think he might have some. There is the food and water we were looking for, d8 and d6. Right now we know we've got d6 silver. Let's just go ahead and roll one real quick. Actually rolled a 6. Surprised me, I usually don't roll well for money. Alright, so I'll have to go back and fill out the gear a little bit, but otherwise, really, it was kind of that quick to make a character. There's a couple things I have to fill in, description, what he's wearing. We'll talk more about these conditions and supply later. Obviously, no mount at this point in time. The reason the mount has all these numbers under it is because the mount can also carry things for you. Obviously, no notes for this character just yet. Battle Axe, we'll get that up here. I will go in and fill in the damage later. Bonus, he's going to get that because of his Axe Fighter, and again, we'll have to get him some armor. But otherwise, that's all it really takes to make a character in Forbidden Lands. It doesn't take long. Definitely some changes I do want to make, and we'll talk about those coming up. Until I see you again, remember to be well, be safe, and be awesome, both to yourself and one another.